Good morning, dear students. Today we are starting with the chapter The Fundamental Unit of Life. Hope all of you are safe, healthy, and happy, taking good care of yourself and your family. Now, this chapter is about cell. You all have studied about cell in the previous class also, so we do not need much of the introduction, but let's start. We know that all living organisms in this universe are made up of cell. They either exist as a single cell or a combination of multiple cells. Dear students, we call cell the structural and functional unit of life. This is how we define it. Why it is a structural unit of life? Because it gives structure to the body of an organism. And why it is functional unit of life? Because it is doing all the basic functions like nutrition, respiration, excretion for the organism. Now let's talk about some discoveries regarding cells. Because whatever we know about cells today, that is because of the contribution of these scientists. Robert Hooke, year was 1665, he noticed the presence of cells in cork slice. Cork he has taken from the bark of a tree. What he saw, he found them to be like honey-like, comb-like structure, but actually it was the dead plant cells. Then Leeuwenhoek for the first time found out living cells in the pond water, which was actually bacteria. Robert Brown in the year 1831 recognized the existence of nucleus in the cell. Purkinje invented the term protoplasm, which is the fluid present in the cell. Now, Sheldon and Schwann, they presented the cell theory. According to this cell theory, all organisms are actually made up of cells. Another point was added to this cell theory, which by Virchow, which suggested that all cells, they come from the cells that already exist in nature. Or in other words, we can simply say that all cells are coming from pre-existing cells. Now, these were the prominent scientists whom we have just talked about. You can see their pictures: Leeuwenhoek, Purkinje, Robert Hooke, Robert Brown, Schwann, everybody is here, and the years are mentioned along with it. Now, on the basis of number of cells, there are two types of organisms. Either they are multicellular or they are unicellular. Unicellular organisms, as you have studied earlier also, they are made up of single cell. Like for example, amoeba, paramecium, Calytomonas, there are so many of them. Then multicellular organisms, the organisms which contain various cells and perform different functions in the organisms, like plant, fungi, animals, and of course we human beings are also multicellular organisms. Now let's talk about the shape of the cell. Remember, in class 8 you have studied that shape of the cell depends upon the function the cell is performing in the tissue and its location in the body. So depending upon that, cells have various shapes, and some cells are also capable of changing their shapes. For example, white blood cells. Even amoeba is capable of changing its shape. And some of the cells like neurons, they have specific shapes because they are performing very specialized functions. Now, these are the various shapes. You can see the shape of a nerve cell. It has long fiber-like structures because it transmits impulses throughout the body, and this process is very fast. You can see the various shapes: sperm, ovum, bone cell, blood cells, smooth muscle cells, fat cells, etc. Now, there is always division of labor found in both unicellular as well as multicellular organism. In unicellular organism, it occurs in the form of cell organelles. Like for example, in amoeba, food vacuole performs the function of digestion. On the other hand, contractile vacuole performs the function of excretion and osmoregulation. In multicellular organisms, division of labor can be seen in the form of different organ systems. Now let's talk about the organization of cell. Every cell, whether it is a plant cell or an animal cell, it has three features: a plasma membrane, a nucleus, and cytoplasm. Now let's talk about the plasma membrane. Plasma membrane is made up of proteins and lipids, and it is a covering or envelope that separates the cell from rest of the environment. Now, plasma membrane is also called as selectively permeable membrane because it allows only some selected material to enter and go out of the cell depending upon the need of the cell. That is why it is called as selectively permeable membrane. Now let's talk about the movement of various substances across plasma membrane. First, gaseous exchange. Now, diffusion is the process responsible for gaseous exchange between the cell and its external environment. What happens is these gaseous substances, they have a tendency that they can move from the concentration of from the area of higher concentration to the area of lower concentration, and this movement is called as diffusion. For example, after cellular respiration, the cell has lots of carbon dioxide in it. As a result, the carbon dioxide will simply move out of the cell into the external environment by the process of diffusion. You can look here that how from the higher concentration to the lower concentration the molecules move with the help of this particular diagram. Now, there is another process called osmosis. Osmosis is a special type of diffusion in which the water molecules move from the area of higher concentration to the area of lower concentration through a selectively or semi-permeable membrane, that is plasma membrane. Osmosis is important like diffusion because many of the substances which go out and come into the cell are in liquid form. So water plays an important role in their transportation. Now, on the basis of the concentration, there are three types of external environments for the cell. A cell can be in hypotonic solution, a cell can be in isotonic solution, or a cell can be in hypertonic solution. Hypertonic solution means when the concentration of water is much more outside than what is present inside the cell, such an environment for the cell will be called the hypotonic solution. When the cell is kept in an environment where the outside environment has more water than the amount of water present inside the cell. So such solutions are called as hypotonic solutions. Second is isotonic solutions. Isotonic solutions are the one where the external environment has same amount of water which is present inside the cell. That means the number of water molecules outside and inside the cell, or the concentration of water outside and inside the cell is same. Hypertonic means when the cell is kept in an environment which has lower concentration of water than what is present inside the cell. So what will happen in these three cases? Let's see. Now, with the help of this diagram, we can see hypotonic, isotonic and hypertonic solution. In the first row, you can see the animal cells. In the second row, same processes are being shown in plant cell. Let's talk about the hypotonic solution first. What happens is when the cell is kept in an environment where the water concentration is much higher than what is the amount of water present inside the cell, water will enter into the cell. Always remember, the movement of water is in both the directions. It is going out of the cell as well as it is entering into the cell. But the net movement of water is inside the cell or into the cell because the water which is moving into the cell is much higher than the water which is going outside. So in this case, what will happen is in hypotonic solution, the water that will enter into the animal cell, the animal cell will swell to an extent it may burst also. On the other hand, in plant cell, the cell membrane will swell and it will exert pressure on the cell wall. But since cell wall exert equal pressure on the plasma membrane, so in case of plant cell and fungi cell, because they both have cell wall, they never burst. Let's move on to isotonic solution now. This solution has same concentration of water which is present inside the cell. So what will happen is the amount of water entering into the cell and the amount of water which is going out of the cell will be same. As a result, there will be no change in the size of cell. It will neither swell nor shrink. Let's move to the hypertonic solution. What happens in hypertonic solution is that when the cell will lose water, what will happen is animal cell will shrink, and in case of plant cell, the contents of protoplasm along with the plasma membrane, they will shrink, and a gap will be created between plasma membrane and the cell wall. And this condition where a gap is formed between plasma membrane and cell wall is called plasmolysis, and such a plant cell is called plasmolysed cell. Along with these three types of solutions show movement through osmosis. Let's talk about another type of movement which uses energy. When cell is exchanging certain amount of substances along with the outside environment, at times it also make use of transport through use of energy. There is another process I'll talk about here before ending the video, that is endocytosis. Endocytosis is a process in which plasma membrane engulfs food and other materials inside the cell. This process can take place only due to the flexibility of cell membrane. That is why only in amoeba the pseudopodias are being formed, because plasma membrane is very flexible, which allows the formation of pseudopodia, and the food is engulfed by the amoeba, and this process is called endocytosis.